Hey everyone, and welcome to what is the start of a new journey in the lore, and I truly mean this. This is pretty incredible stuff. There is something incredibly strange going on in the Shadowlands, and it is going to change our whole perspective on the Warcraft universe. The Titans were always held up, right? The Titans and the Old Gods as the ultimate mystery, the things players would never know. But it seems that's about to change. So the lead narrative designer of World of Warcraft recently said that Shadowlands will, quote, put meat on the bones of the narrative framework introduced in Warcraft Chronicle. And what we found out on Shadowlands Alpha is a universe mystery defining thing. It is that big. The cosmos does not work exactly in the way that the cosmology chart would have us believe, and perhaps most shockingly of all, the Titans might not be who we think they are. They might not even be the first race of sentient beings. So today, we are going to talk about the first ones, a group that we have never heard about before, a group that came before the Titans. The implications of this are going to be massive, and I've also got something pretty cool. Shadows Rising, the prologue to Shadowlands, the book that sets the stage, you can get it for free with today's sponsor, Audible. You can pre-order it ahead of its 14th of July release date with my link. And once you do that, that's it. You will have owned the audiobook and you'll own it forever, even if you cancelled Audible. Now, if you stick around, well, each month you get a credit to put into getting another audiobook. It's an incredible deal, and seriously, audiobooks are awesome. I mean, come on, like my weekly drive to my favorite mountain, 45, it's 45 minutes either way, so I can put on an audiobook in the car to keep me entertained, right? I just could not recommend doing audiobooks enough. And man, Shadows Rising, we're actually getting there. So get ready for Shadowlands by getting its novel pre-ordered with my link right down below. It's only in the US right now, but I believe it's going to be going live in other areas on release day. So there's that, and I hope you enjoy that. And with that said, it's time to talk about the first ones. This is going to get pretty damn big. Since our very first images of Oribos, we've speculated at the titanic nature of the Shadowlands. I mean, just look at the precise architecture, geometric patterns, the arcane technology blend, and the many automatic servants. Yes, it looks a bit older and more worn, but it does look Titan in origin. Well, that view has become a lot more damn complicated because recent evidence actually points to somebody other than the Titans being involved. Someone other than the Titans making this stuff. Let's get stuck into the evidence, beginning with two interesting data points, and then finally the big bomb from none other than Anduin Wrynn. So there was a conversation, right, between two NPCs in the Shadowlands. They are Emissary Basolo and Opulence Beher. Now, after witnessing the Eternal City, Basolo is shocked to discover that Beher has witnessed the, quote, other works of the First Ones. To which they reply, have you seen their handiwork, the patterns, the geometry? There's a lot to unpack there. The First Ones. First, Oribos is not the only construction of its nature in the Shadowlands. There is another one, at least. And Oribos isn't even the most impressive, apparently. Second, the builder uses geometric patterns in their work, all of, the precision, the geometry, and that's stuff that we have otherwise only seen in the ordered arcane technology of the Titans. So that's interesting. Then next, during the Shadowlands introduction scenario, we find that the Shadowlands is littered with artifacts of the First Ones. Specifically, right, in the Maw, there is a waystone, and that can be used to travel between the realms of the dead. Now, we are told that it does not work, but that it's our only possible way out. So, the adventurer and several big-named characters find the waystone. But shockingly enough, it works. It does work, and it only works because the player is so close to it. And it's heavily implied both, I think, in-game and also via BlizzCon, that it's our connection to Azeroth via the Heart of Azeroth that activates the Waystone. And when this happens, the jailer, who we've been introduced to at this point, he replies in shock, saying, a relic of the First Ones, responding to a mortal. Impossible. And again, there is just so much to unpack with that. Again, it's another example of somebody saying First Ones. First, we can say that the Waystone has an undeniable connection to the Titans through the Heart of Azeroth, but it seems like it wasn't made by the Titans, and you'll see why. Next, the Jailer's response could point to beings in the Shadowlands being able to use these artifacts, but that it was activated by a mortal that he finds impossible. And that's something to bear in mind, because it all ties back to our connection with Azeroth. And then we got the big one, Anduin. This is quest text, and this is lore shattering. Here it is. Anduin examines the obelisk intently. I've never seen markings like this before. I've studied Titan artifacts, but this appears to be made by a different hand. And yes, that is what Anduin says when he is examining the Waystone, that it was not made by the Titans from all that he has learnt. Now remember, it's implied that the Waystone responds to the player because of their connection to Azeroth, who is a Titan. So can you see how big this is? We know there is this group called the First Ones, that they created Oribos and so much more in the Shadowlands. We know that they build in the same style as the Titans, but if you look at their works, they feel older, they feel less pure, less perfect in a way. And one of these things, these constructs, responds to a mortal who is connected to Azeroth. And then we know that they're plural, they're the First Ones, so there's a group of them. And finally, we know that the First Ones aren't around anymore, or else I think that, because they wouldn't be referred to as weird artifacts if they were still knocking about the place. Okay, so with all of these facts lined up, let's actually extrapolate this into working theories and see what this means for the Warcraft lore. I think there could actually be a tie-in to what came before the Olympians of Greek mythology, who of course are the Titans, and then what actually came before the Titans of Greek mythology. But first, we're going to try another speculation that I think could be quite crazy. And that is, well, the first death and the first murder. This could be the most straightforward. Now, the First Ones, were they the first dead to be sent to the Shadowlands? And if so, that would have well, it's just complicated, right? Because we've got to ask ourselves, the first things that went to the Shadowlands, who would they be? Well, see, my reading here of anima so far is that only intelligent mortal life can gather it, and that anima seems to be the key to the Shadowlands. So, would it be one of the first intelligent species in the cosmos, right? And the thing is then, I can't think of anything before the first Titans. Now, we've got this thing where light is eternal and unbreakable, void is ever-changing and inescapable. It wasn't until the universe had cooled down from a rift between light and void, we are told anyway, that the Titans begun to actually emerge and then, do all of their ordering business. Now, this would mean that the First Ones, well, were they Titans? Is it a different type of Titan? Because we then have to ask ourselves, are Titans even mortal? We've always thought them to be immortal. Now, if we consider the life process that an individual goes through, right, born with a small amount of anima that is built up over life and then is sent to the Shadowlands when they die, well, you can actually see this, I think, paralleled in the creation of a Titan. A Titan starts off as a nascent world soul, anima is soul stuff, which then grows in spirit until it is ready to leave its planet. Could there be an end state for the Titans? Maybe is their process actually ours writ large? Or does a Titan need to be physically destroyed for their existence to end? And would this then leave the door open for the Titan that Sargeras cleaved in two and destroyed being in the Shadowlands? Perhaps being some fundamental part of the process. The Jailer even. Who knows? And that leads me to, I think, some of the most far out speculative thoughts. That when the Titans were created and came into this world, you could have this idea that there was maybe betrayal, and that one Titan turned on the next, like Cain and Abel. Maybe Aman'Thul has skeletons in his closet. That, you had the first death and the first murder, a Titan who ended up in these Shadowlands. And that could be some sort of lie that Aman'Thul could actually be holding off from everybody else, perhaps even the rest of the Pantheon. And if that stuff was true, then suffice to say, it would be pretty darn insane, and it would mean a lot of things for wherever Aman'Thul actually returns. So yes, that's a major one. Next though, another theory. Let's see what evidence there is for this just being, well, all just being the Titans that we already know and love, right? In an interview that was previously mentioned, Denuzur told us, "We've mostly seen Titans through their Azeroth expression." And that's pretty interesting. That does make sense, right? The giant, golden godlike creatures that we've experienced, that they maybe, aren't actually just the Titans, that they're maybe more avatars, and the Titans are a more intangible, fundamental thing. I mean, they do start off as a weird world soul. So could the Titans have visited the Shadowlands to construct this complicated machinery of death for some purpose, external to the Shadowlands, right? Some potentially self-serving mechanism we're currently unaware of, and that maybe the first ones are a different expression of the same fundamental beings. There's a lot there. The first ones seem to have been in the Shadowlands for a very long time because their constructions are named artifacts, and their constructions like Oribos, the Eternal City, they seem fundamental. And the time there is even longer if you think about the time dilation effects of the Shadowlands. So if they set this up for some purpose, they need the whole system to run eternally, and you see lots of that if you actually look into the Shadowlands and the various automatons. So perhaps they could, perhaps this is all just cemented by the naming of its centerpiece, Oribos, the Eternal City. Now, a more circumstantial line is the existence of this pantheon of death. We kind of don't know exactly who staffs this pantheon, but we're aware of only one other pantheon, and that's the regular old Titans themselves that we know. So could the Titans have come to the Shadowlands, ordered it in such a way, maybe before the most powerful locals inhabited various titles, maybe, and they sort of took up stewardship of the realm and kept using the term Pantheon, as in Pantheon of Death, and maybe you've got a more original Pantheon of Death there. It's hard to know. Then there's also, the Titans and the Olympians, and this is me going to Greek mythology, and really if you look at the Titans, they are a blending of mythologies. Titans, that's a word that comes from Greek, but if you look at elements of them, you see stuff that feels very Norse. Now, the idea there originally, is you've got the Titans and the Olympians. And the Olympians are, the likes of Zeus that you will have heard of, and the sort of Titans were hardcore fundamental dudes from before then. Now, the Olympians got rid of the Titans, right? And you then have to wonder, is that sort of suggesting that we've got our Titans and maybe there was someone before them? Now, that actually leads you to another thing in that mythology, which is basically that the Titans of Greek mythology came from the union of Uranus and Gaia, which I believe is heaven and earth, and that's what led to the Titans. Now, does that mean that, just this concept of proto-Titans is something that Blizzard are going to be reflecting in the lore of World of Warcraft, and maybe these first ones are something that came before the Titans? That would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? And it would be something that would make sense in-game with what has been established, but would also make sense in the context of the cultural, mythological inspirations that Blizzard have really used to inform so much of their game's direction and storytelling. Really, at this stage, it's so early that I can't say that there's a satisfying answer to these questions, to the implications of this video, but what I can say is that there certainly is a mystery here, one that we're going to learn more about. We've not known about Shadowlands for very long, but I feel like these aspects, aspects of it that we were just beginning to feel comfortable about talking or being thrown up in the air. Questions like who built the Shadowlands? We just thought, obviously, it's the Titans, but now we have these first ones. What the hell does that mean? Are they different? Are they the same thing? Is it like the Olympians and the Titans, and then what came before the Titans? The Jailer has talked about the first ones in what seems to me to be a very distinct way. And what does that say about our theories of the Jailer maybe being some fallen Titan? Maybe there's a Cain and Abel there. How did he end up in such a miserable situation? And then this leads me on to, I think, some of the meta commentary. Blizzard expanding the bounds of the lore. Because here's the thing, World of Warcraft's got incredible growth potential, or at least incredible longevity. BFA really did hurt it, right? But Classic, it took it right back up. You've heard us cover industry news across both of our channels, including how Classic, was it doubled the WoW subs between the just after Rise of Ashara launch and Classic coming back? And then what happens if you've got these Classic players who are they don't want to play BFA because they've heard about the RNG and all of that stuff, but then they hear that Shadowlands is doing away with the RNG and the Titan forging, and it's really changing up the game for the better. Are they then going to think, oh, I want to come back to WoW? And then Blizzard's maybe thinking, yeah, in our earnings call, Bobby Kotick and the boys mentioned World of Warcraft and Call of Duty being pillars of the company. And they're now knowing World of Warcraft is going to be here for a long time. It has to be here for a long time because it is holding our fucking company up with its incredible financial performance. And, you know, that makes you think that World of Warcraft's got to last for a long-ass time, right? And if every single mystery has been answered thus far, if we know who the Titans are, we've met them, they've given us buffs in a boss fight, and then we went and clobbered the old gods who felt like their big fundamental enemy, where do we go? The Shadowlands is some crazy new place, but the Shadowlands already is opening up more things. The first ones. You know, it almost reminds me of like in Halo. It started off, oh, we've got the Covenant, the Halo rings, the Covenant have got their great journey, and then we find out about the Forerunners. And then you get into the original Halo lore of what happened like 500,000 years ago in the Milky Way, and you're like, what the hell? That lore really went a bit crazy, changed, you know, went mad. Well, what if Warcraft's got to do that? Because Blizzard are going to want to keep this going, and they're going to want a situation where the players always feel small. In a way that needs to happen. We always need to be dwarfed by what's out there. And if you're at a stage where you've clobbered an old god, you've been to Nyalotha and back, you know, you've Kamihami-had him, Sauron'd him down, you know, yeah, we've dealt with Sauron, what about Melkor? They've got to expand the lore. And this, to me, seems like them very clearly doing that. We've got the first ones. We've got a loon. You just heard in the most recent World of Warcraft news video we did that there's ample evidence that the first Night Warrior was not even on Azeroth, because it was these two Night Elves, you know, and in Night Elf, or sorry, it was these two characters, and in Night Elven culture, which is a matriarchy, the people who worship a loon are female, right? They're not male, so we got these two guys. Well, I guess, you know, the guy and his husband. They don't really have Night Elf sounding names, and they say our world. They don't say Azeroth. So it even seems like they're making it like a loon is this crazy thing that's even bigger than we maybe thought. Not just a little part of Night Elven culture, but a way bigger thing. So we got that with a loon. We've got this with the first ones. We've got lots of doubt and mystery being thrown into the Titans. And then you've got the Void Lords hanging out outside the universe. You know, that reminds me of, you know, Aemon and the Xel'Naga and what Kerrigan went through in StarCraft, you know, trying to make that universe bigger. So I know this is my big, you're like, what the hell is going on? This is going to change rant at the end of the video. But man, it's pretty mental, isn't it? It's really big stuff. So I would love to know, what do you think about this? You know, it's crazy. There was the idea of a planet being a weapon. We actually found out that that's like a core thing to the new She-Ra. And then the World Soul thing is from Bionicle. So apparently World of Warcraft is a merger of She-Ra and Bionicle. Who the hell knew? Just joking, but you know. It's mental. Things are changing. Exciting things are happening. So let me know what you think about these lore revelations. Who do you think the first ones are? Do you think that maybe the first ones are like the second Titan, right? That it's Cain and Abel. Do you think it's that? Or do you think, you know, it's more going with the Greek side of things? That you've got, you know, what came before the Olympians? The Titans. What came before the Titans? Gaia and Uranus. You know, what's up? What do you think? Please let me know. This is so damn interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's got you at least thinking, And man, yeah, like, sub, do all the cool stuff. I'll see you next time. This is all crazy. Thank you for watching.